All right, everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going over tomorrow's MMA card. And boy, it's a rough one. One of the fights that I thought was going to be a fight to target was just scratched just before I started doing this video. So I had to kind of readjust everything. And so what we have is our 10 fights right now. And I'll tell you, the inside the distance props and the early finish props are extremely weak throughout the card. So what you're going to unfortunately have to do is, I don't want to say settle, but really hunt for win equity. Now that's not to say that some of these fights are not going to finish, but just the odds of them doing so are just really, very small. Or smaller than the average card, and with only 10 fights, it just becomes less likely that you have 4 or 5 fights that finish. What it also might mean is that you're going to take some underdogs that you might even be accepting a loss in to make the optimal. And that's something that happened, I think, both of the last 2 weeks. Actually, I'm not sure if it happened last week. Rosa was in perfect position to be on the winning lineup as a loser last week, and the week before, I think, forgot who it was, but I think somebody was in the winning lineup as a loser as well. So it is a tricky card, but we are going to still approach it from the same angles as usual. We're going to try to find the good inside the distance props for targeting fights, and then try to find some good grappling upside, try to find some win equity, and make heads or tails of this. There is actually one fight that I have an actual opinion on, and I don't really get those that often because I haven't been watching that long, and I usually just rely on the numbers here to drive me to my picks. But I've now seen a couple of fights, and there's one particular spot which I do actually want to recommend somebody, aside from exactly just what Vegas is putting out there. So we will get to that. As a matter of fact, actually we'll get to that in a minute. Let's take a look at some of the inside the distance props, and let's just see if we can't find any of them that are rates of finish in the first 1.5 or 2.5 rounds. So you look at this first fight, Carlos Nunez, it's -200 to go over 2.5. You have the Baccarel fight, which is -175 to go over 2.5. It's still just not good. This one is the closest thing. So actually there are 2 of them. So Klein Landwehr. So this one is favored to go under 2.5. It's like -175. And depending on where you go, it's almost a pick 'em to go under 1.5. So this is one fight that you want to look at as a key fight. Amiv, boring, terrible inside the distance prop. Silva Sanchez is the other one. So Silva Sanchez is, again, you have to, if you want to go under 2.5, you have to lay 150, and it's close to a pick 'em to go under 1.5 rounds. So this is the other key fight. If you look up and down the card, you're not going to get much else. Carolina Godinez, no. Jordan Marquez was going to be it, but that just got scratched. Fierro Buena Silva, it really doesn't rate to finish inside the first round and a half, although you could argue that Fierro has that kind of upside, and we'll get there in a minute. Miller Gonzalez, even this one, no, really bad inside the distance prop. Arlovsky, definitely not. And this, the main event, which is not the most exciting main event, it's got a poor inside the distance prop, and it's about pick 'em to go to a decision over 5 rounds. So I think where we're headed here. I mean, this fight, you probably are going to want to play it. Like if you're going to get 5 rounds minimum, not minimum, but it rates to finish to go 5 rounds, and both these girls are 8K. I mean, someone's probably going to get enough to make that optimal at 8K. I mean, just to win a decision and without just being the most boring fight in the world, you're going to get 70, right? So one of these girls is going to get 9X, and that's, that's probably good enough. So I guess that's the first thing, is that, like it or not, you probably want to get somebody from that fight, Lad Dumont. Let's see if there's anybody with incredible wrestling upside. This fight, this Amiv, I mean, he has some takedown upside, but it's not the type of takedowns you want. Like, this guy's going to maybe take down Danny Roberts and just sit on him for a while. He's not going to, from what I hear, he's not going to be going for a lot of active ground and pound, not getting a lot of significant strikes. It's not going to be like a chain wrestling type thing where you get multiple takedowns. He's just going to try to smother him and just lay on him. And that's at that price, he's over 9K. It's not exactly the upside that you're really looking for. So let's go back to these fights. So Silva and Sanchez. Let's take a look at the price, since it has a good inside the distance prop. So Silva and Sanchez, that's the hockey. Shoot, hold on a second. Thought I had the MMA. Sorry about that. We'll get up right here. Okay. So Silva Sanchez, this is like a perfect fight, right? Because you have a good inside the distance prop, and it's 8,300, 7,900. So you're almost definitely going to want to get both sides of this fight. Not to mention the fact that each fighter has a path to victory, which is very commensurate with good DraftKings scoring. So Bruno Silva is more of a striker, and if this finishes, it's going to be because of his knocking him out. And at 8,300, you're going to want that. And Sanchez, if he can get takedowns and get control time and things like that, he's going to win. So, and that's obviously good for DraftKings scoring as well. So Silva Sanchez is really a fight that you're going to want to key on, given the combination of, to remind ourselves, of the inside the distance prop, okay, and the pricing. The other one that we mentioned was Klein and Landwehr. The problem with this one is it's really kind of one-sided. So it's really just designed for Klein. Well, I'll say this. It's more likely that Klein knocks out Landwehr than Landwehr knocks out Klein. I mean, duh. I mean, it's a 4-1 favorite. I guess a very legitimate question is, do you want to play both sides in this fight? Like, do you want to play Like, do you want to play both Landwehr and Klein? Klein it's a full 90, 9,300, 9,200, and I don't know if you're going to be able to afford that much 9,200, because I mean the underdogs are really, really thin. So I would consider playing some what's the name? Why can't I find the people today? It's so strange. Has he been taken out too? No, Landwehr, sorry. So I would play some Landwehr at 7K. I mean, if nothing else, Landwehr comes forward, throws a lot of stuff, and I don't know, like maybe he gets lucky and knocks him out. If he does, I mean, that's the end of the slate, right? If you get a 7K guy who knocks out a $9,100 guy, I mean, that's the end of the slate. I mean, you're going to want that. So you probably want to get a little of that, depending on how many lineups you play. So where I feel as though the Silva Sanchez fight, you want both sides. I mean, you don't want that much of Landwehr. So let's not lose track of what we're doing here. So first thing I said was that you want somebody from this Lad Dumont fight. Do I care which one it is? I mean, not really. Dumont, is cheaper, but Lad probably has more grappling upside. So I would think that Lad is probably the better play if you can get her in. I have this weird feeling that 600 is going to come in really, really handy. Okay, let's go back to our grid here. A couple of other fighters I mentioned, Manon Fiorot. So she has a lot of things going for her and a couple of things not going for her. So what she has going for her is, even though the inside the distance prop is not that great, I mean, just the eye test and what she's done. I mean, she's had two very impressive KOs in her first two fights in the UFC. And this is both a positive and a negative. I mean, she is leading the MMA hype train. I mean, everybody is all over her. And just be careful. The only reason I say that is, I and everybody else on the face of the earth were on Fiorot in her last two fights. And 2 fights ago against Leonardo, who apparently was, she was pretty weak in a perfect matchup for Fiorot. And this last matchup, she was against, I think, a replacement opponent who really had no chance. So while Fiorot looks good against really, poor competition, but poorer competition, it's not as if she's beaten anybody great. And the other thing I would say is, if in fact she was just such like the next big thing, this is kind of weird to say. Why is she not more of a favorite than 2.5 to 1? Why isn't she like 4 to 1 or 3 to 1 or something like that? Maybe, just maybe, this Buena Silva has a little something to keep these odds from being just through the roof. And likewise, if she was such a lock hero, why wouldn't the inside the distance prop be a little bit lower? I mean, in fairness, she has knocked both of the opponents out in the last couple of fights. So would be my only caution, to just not to get overwhelmingly on the Fiorot hype train. But she certainly does, have upside. But I don't know. I would not go too crazy on her. A couple of other fights to kind of think about. So Arlovsky, Felipe. Here's another one. Again, maybe I'm just kind of overemphasizing this, but I will say this. I've watched content throughout the week. I've heard a lot of different takes. I listened to a lot of different people. And the only thing that I've heard for sure is that Arlovsky is winning. Okay. Everybody assures me that Arlovsky is winning. That Arlovsky is just going to make it a really boring fight, and he's going to smother him against the cage. He's not going to score too well on DraftKings, but he's almost, if you do a poll, seriously, of course, all the content providers, I can't find anybody who likes Felipe, and yet it's a pick'em fight. So for me, this is Trap City, and I would not play Arlovsky. The combination of just a very weak upside from Arlovsky, plus the fact that I think it's a trap anyway, I would not play him, especially in GPPs. So here are some of the other favorites here. So Miller's interesting because Miller is a submission guy. So the good thing is, if he wins, I won't say probably, but see, I don't know why this inside the distance prop isn't a little bit stronger, because he's a submission guy, he's got experience, and from what I've heard, he's just going to take Gonzalez and submit him. I mean, it just seems so obvious, and yet the inside the distance prop is, you can get $1.20 for going under 2.5 rounds. I mean, doesn't that seem like easy money if Miller is such a lock to take him down and submit him? So again, this just seems like a trap. It seems a little fishy. So again, maybe I'm just playing fancy play syndrome, which is supposed to play the obvious. Maybe Occam's razor just cut me in the throat too often, and just take the obvious. Take Miller, go for the submission. You get a second round or first round submission. You'll get your 90+ points, and you'll be on your way at 10x. But something about it just kind of stinks. That's the best I could say it. And I will have some Gonzalez. I mean, if he shows up in some of my builds as an underdog, I have enough skepticism of this situation where I wouldn't mind doing that. Right, Marquez. We talked about this. His fight's canceled. While we're talking about it, Maria Buena Silva. Should I be playing her as kind of on the same logic as Gonzalez? Maybe. The problem is that from what I've heard, that her path to victory is a path to victory that she doesn't really like to do. I mean, for apparently, if she went for takedowns and could try to turn this into a wrestling match, she would have a shot because she'd be avoiding Fiorot's good striking. But from what I've heard, it's just not in her. I don't think they're going to have her do that. So I don't know. That's the only reason I'm kind of off of her. But if my builds take me to her, I'll probably sprinkle a little bit. All right. This next fight I think is very interesting. Lupita Godinez versus Juana Carolina. So here's another one. Just last week, Lupita Godinez broke the slate. She came in as she was 8,600, and she was supposed to fight someone. That person pulled out, was replaced by somebody else, and Lupita Godinez just smashed. Multiple takedowns, ground and pound, got a finish right at the end of the round. So you got the perfect combination of finish, plus you got to have all those extra strikes before they called it. So Godinez made everybody money that had her. And now, because of Carolina's opponent, Silvana Eubanks bailing out of this fight, Godinez is now being called in on 1 week's rest to come in. And 1 week later, she's right back in. And now she's 9,000. So Carolina, she is plus 180, and she's what, 7K? So the price is probably somewhat fair, both sides. I mean, I would actually say that a 200, 180 situation is usually more like 8,800, 7,400, something like that. Like it was like Marquez, Jordan Wright was going to be. Fierro, Buena, Silva, right? Look, Fierro is 8,800, and she's a minus 240 favorite. Carolina is, Godinez is only a 220 favorite, and yet she's 9,100 or 9,000. So strangely, there's kind of inherent bad value, I think, in Godinez here. And there's inherent good value in Carolina. Let me make another kind of like ridiculous, case for Carolina. Whether she was going to win or lose against Eubanks, she at least was preparing for the last however many weeks she was preparing to fight somebody that was going to be wrestling at that style. So she's been preparing for takedowns and preparing to fight someone like that, where Godinez is just basically just, okay, who do I got? I'll take this fight. It's a week later, yeah, who is it? So I think that Carolina might have the preparation edge, actually. And I don't care what anybody says, man, coming back in 1 week off of a fight, even if you were the dominating performer, that's got to affect you somehow. So I don't know. If Carolina shows up in my builds, I'm going to try it. And Godinez might be kind of a sneaky little fade, can I tell you? So Ameev against Roberts. This one is priced like he's going to win. You know what I mean? He's priced at minus 300. And as I mentioned before, the inside the distance prop is really poor. And the reason why is that he's not a finisher. What he is a smotherer. He gets you down and then he sits on you. And I have to say that given what I've said about some of these other 9Ks, maybe, just maybe, it's not the worst idea in the world to take the I want to say the sure win, but think about this. So you have, what's her name? Person I just said. Godinez is 9K, okay? And she's a 2-to-1 favorite. Then you have this guy, Ameev, who's 9,100 and 3-to-1 favorite. So already you have value over Godinez. And I don't know, I just feel you have that safety that, of that win equity, and remember, you sometimes, especially on a 10-fight card, you just need to get that W. So I think that Ameev might actually be kind of a priority. Like if I were going to build a lineup, let's just say I was going to just play Ameev with, who's the other big favorite? Klein. Okay. Like think of the difference here. You have Klein and Ameev, who are 9,100, 9,200. And then you have these others who are not that much cheaper, like Godinez and Fierro, who are just their win equity is just so much worse. So I think I want to make these two kind of like my priority. And it's kind of like the anti-sharp play, because the sharp play would be, let's get rid of the big favorites and like go middling. Maybe, just maybe, the sharp play is to avoid the kind of sexy looking mid-range plays and pay up for these two dudes and just kind of make it work some other way. And again, it sounds easy to do, but I mean, look, if you play this way, you played like one of these two from the main, one of these two from this key Bruno fight, and just play these two. Yeah, you have to get lucky with your two other underdogs, but you have like good safety in two guys. You have, you know, key fight upside with both these. So switch it around. Go Silva here, Sanchez here, Juana here, and crisscross these with these two. And then maybe you get lucky with some of these underdogs and you could be in business, you know, and who knows, maybe the Fiorot just busts. You know, maybe Fiorot just has a decision. You know, maybe Fiorot loses. Maybe the Miller fight just goes all the way to decision at 8,700 or something. Maybe Miller loses. So that's that. The one mid-range play, which I want to get to, let's talk about these two fights. So Baccarel against Davis. So Baccarel is I thought this was going to be a lower inside the distance prop because he is kind of a knockout guy. But I don't know whether I want to trust Vegas or input my own or insert my own take. On this particular fight, I think I'm going to just let Vegas just kind of direct me here and probably fade this the Baccarel side. And you know, even though I've seen knockouts on his resume or whatever, I might end up fading that. And Davis, I guess he's going to be one of those underdogs I just put in my player pool. And he's going to be one of those underdogs I probably am going to shuffle. He's only plus 140. I remember plus 140 happens a lot. So I think that Davis is going to make my player pool. So here's the one where I just, my eye test, I know what I saw. And let me tell you something. So this Carnelossi-Nunez fight, so this inside the distance prop, says over 2.5 minus 200, under 2.5 plus 150. I actually might make my first like literally MMA inside the distance prop wager. I saw Carnelossi fight her last fight, and it was on that incredible card maybe like a couple of months ago, and she got into some war with this Chinese fighter who came on in along with 3 other Chinese fighters from the same promotion. And the pace of this fight was just so freaking fast. You couldn't breathe from watching this. And when you look at her, she's this tank of a woman who is in incredible shape. And this Nunez, who she's coming off what, a 2-3 year layoff after a whatchamacallit suspension, a PED suspension and a steroid suspension, whatever. And I don't know, man. I think Carnelossi is going to put a pace on her and just kill. I don't want to say kill, obviously. That's not. But I think that she has incredible upside here. I think that if she doesn't finish her, it's just going to be because she's just laying all kinds of wood on her, you know. And hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this Godinez was really good, and the last 3 years has made all kinds of improvements. And coming off of like a 3 year layup is going to come in. I don't think she can deal with this. So I am actually going to play. I'm going to take kind of a stand on Carnelossi. And the good thing is the first fight of the night. So if she loses, I don't have to watch anymore. Actually, that's not true. I'm not going to play 100% of her, but I think it's a very, very strong play. I think the inside the distance prop is weak. What I would do is I would play her under. You know, that's what I would do. So let's see what her specific inside the distance prop is. It says Carnelossi wins by TKO. It's only minus 300. Submission minus not plus 800, 900. I don't know. Maybe just go inside the distance, whatever. But I think this fight is I don't want to say sneaky, but I don't know why this fight's inside the distance prop is not a little bit better. So Carnelossi is actually my opinion of the day. So with that said, you should probably all just lock in these. In any case, just to kind of reiterate, I think that these are key fights: Sanchez, Bruno Silva, and along with the main event. And something about those mid-range, sharp-looking plays like Miller, Godinez, for Fiorot, just something about those odds just smell trappy. That's the best I can describe it. And they could all smash, and I could be wrong about this, but I just got to play the numbers and play what I see. So I'll probably be underweight on those. I won't have zero, but I'll probably be underweight. And just to reiterate also, and I am going to be full fading Orlovsky. That's about it. Good luck, everybody, and let's get it.